Hello, hello. My name is Brian. This is Wine from On the Vine to the Road Tasted. And sitting to my right, as always, is...
Me, Jasmine.
Her, Jasmine. And today we are going to be talking about a Zinfandel that we got from... It's from the El Dorado district, right?
El Dorado,
of Napa?
yeah, it's from El Dorado County in St. Helena, Napa Valley.
Oh, yeah, okay. And then before we start on that, we would like to promote ourselves a little bit. So you can find our website at jasmineandbryan.com, and you just look up Wine Vine Road Tasted, and you'll find our YouTube channel. We have a TikTok, and we have an Instagram. So you can look up videos that we put up on our pairings. Sometimes, like the one that we are doing today, we made some food, and then we paired the wine up with the food. It's only like a 2.5 minute video. It's not very long, but we talk about the ingredients that we put in everything and why we paired it up, and also other wines that you could pair it up with, because
other varietals that you could group together with the food.
Yeah, so just in case if you don't, some people don't like like a strong wine with a strong pizza. They want something else.
A little lighter.
Yeah, they want something a little bit lighter, not something that that we like. So we don't expect you guys to like everything that we like, but at least it gets you started. It gets you started on a way to experiment with specific things. And just don't judge us on our videos. That's all I ask. I'm just getting started here. But other than that, we don't promote ourselves very often. So, but yeah, Wine Vine Road Tasted is everything. It's our Instagram, our TikTok, and it's our YouTube.
And if they do a Google search, they can type in Jasmine and Bryan.
JasmineandBryan.com. We'll go to our website, and you can access our Instagram from there. Or you can access all of our podcasts as well. And we have a wine of the month that we put up there, and we put occasional stories up there. It's not very often, it's a lot. If we ever got an editor, if we ever make any money on this, we'll get an editor and they can start adding a bunch of media. But for right now, it's just really simple. But JasmineandBryan.com, that's our website.
Well,
yep, that's what we got.
There's your info.
There's your info.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and
hope it helps.
I'll put it at the bottom of our podcast as well. I'll put JasmineandBryan.com, and then the Wine Vine Road Tasted. If you guys use a Podbean, I don't know if it'll switch over to Spotify and Apple, and the majority of our people who are listening to our podcast, they listen to it on Alexa. I don't know why, but maybe because they just say listen to JasmineandBryan.com, and then they can just do their things.
I think it's the most used as far as that goes with listening to different things. Like even in my physical therapy that I've been going to, they listen to Alexa. So everywhere I go, it's like people have that programmed at place of work or personal. It seems to be a big thing. So.
Well, that's good. Mm-hmm. All right, so. I'll start off with what it is. Actually, I'll let Jasmine explain what the wine is. You want to explain it?
Okay, so we're going to be featuring tonight California Zinfandel. It's from the Rombauer vineyards in Napa Valley, particularly St. Helena, El Dorado County, like we had mentioned earlier. And this is a Zinfandel that we tried a couple days back. We actually tried wine throughout the week and the month, and we don't always get to the bottles right away, but we have a whole collection we're trying to catch up on. I have a whole stash put to the side. So Rombauer was one of them. We've already drank this. So it's a 2018, highly rated at 4.5 stars. Average price is under $55. You can get it on sale, I believe, for under $40. If you can, just depends online or specials that they're having. I don't know, you were saying that you found it at an average price that was lower, right?
It was $43 was your average cost. And on all the sites I looked at, it's currently out of stock.
2 bottles left. I forget where I saw it. It was Wine.com.
Oh,
they have
over
two
wine.com.
bottles left of
Okay.
this particular one we had, which is 2018 vintage.
Yeah.
So it ranks number 2 in the top 25 California Zinfandel wines in California right now. And this is not a shy wine. So the description I got from this myself, like when I was thinking about it, the personality, it's very bold. It has a dense presence of tons or loads of fruit. You're tasting red, dark fruit, very significant on the palate. And then also comes in the oak. So the oak coats the palate. And the finish is very lengthy and smooth. It's denoting finely grained tannins. So very, very smooth and silky on the end. Even though it's heavy, it's very bold and very dramatic, I would say. The blend is 95% Zinfandel, 5% Petit Syrah, and it's all El Dorado fruit. So that's the county in which it comes from, in the St. Helena sub-AVA of Napa Valley. The ratio of the oak that was used was 15 months in American oak, and then they switched it to 10% new French oak on the finish. And the recommending temperature that you would serve this wine is at 15 degrees Celsius or 59 degrees Fahrenheit. If it's slightly more chilled than that, you want to set it out on the counter for 20 minutes or put it in a decanter for 20 minutes before serving yourself or guests. And the vineyard itself is located in the Sierra foothills, again in the El Dorado County, which is north, right above Amador County. So those are very well-known areas that Zinfandel are grown. It stands up to heavier gamey meats. You could pair it with beef, lamb, and poultry. But we actually made some homemade pizza that we paired it with. So we made 2 pizzas that night. The first pizza was a meaty pizza. So again, a little bit more oily in the meat because we use salami and pepperoni. You can compare that to the gamey meats and traditional pairings of beef, lamb, and poultry dishes. This one had salami, pepperoni, mushrooms, bell pepper, cremini mushrooms, and marinara sauce. So traditional sauce, heavier meats. The second pizza that I made was my version of Mexican pizza. I used a pesto sauce, no red sauce. I also used Kalamata Greek extra virgin olive oil to drizzle on the dough. I preheated the dough and cooked it for 10 minutes at 450 degrees. I used cornmeal on the pizza stone so that the dough consistency would come out proper. You want the texture of the dough not to stick to the pan, the pizza pan obviously, and you want it to also get a little bit of a texture that's crispy or has a little bit more of a grip to the palate, so kind of like a cracker. It's a traditional flat style pizza I make like a traditional style that you would find in like Naples, Italy. So I don't make a really thick pizza dough. I make it very thin, and then I usually load it with toppings. So that one had leftover ground chicken and ground turkey, I think, that I used for tacos another night. I had leftover ground meat, so I used that. And then I did, the base of the pizza sauce was a marinara, and I put
Pesto.
pesto on that one. And then I put, I think I chopped up some shallots, and do you remember what else I put on there?
Yeah, we put down jalapenos.
Yeah.
And then we put down shallots and that was it. And
I put cilantro.
Oh, did you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I topped it with
Oh,
cilantro.
you did use huge leaves.
Yeah.
Use the big leaves of cilantro. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
right.
so that's what we paired it with, and it went really well. Traditionally, Zinfandel is it can range in many styles, but traditionally the character that you find that's most popular with the ones that people choose are jammy, which is derived from its succulent fruit-forward character. But you can get Zinfandels anywhere from a light bodied to a full bodied, so they range in many styles. I wanted to bring out that the root of the history of the Zinfandel, it doesn't start in California. It actually came from Italy and Croatia. And the one from Italy is called a Primitivo. The one from Croatia, I cannot pronounce it correctly, so I'm not going to actually say the name, but if you look it up, the root origin is from Italy and Croatia. You'll see it's like a 2-worded grape varietal in Croatia. And by the 1900s in California, they started growing California Zin everywhere from Mendocino County to the hillsides of Paso Robles, down to the flats of Rancho Cucamonga, and everywhere else in Southern California. So that's when it became most popular in the 1900s. And I think you were going to bring out some specific dates about the Rombauer. And,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So I'll let you tap in, and then I'll.
Yeah, so we're going to back up. Although there was something I was going to bring up about the, you were talking about temperature, and then you were talking about decantering. We decanted this. We decanted it for about 20 minutes, and I noticed after about an hour, the taste was a lot more elegant. So if you're gonna have this with a pizza like what we did, or something strong like that, I would recommend decantering for an hour.
That's
instead
a good
of
point.
instead of we just had it for like 20 minutes in there. We kind of prematurely started to drink it because we love our wines. But after about an hour, that's when the real it really started to come out, and everything was smoother. So if you're going to do this, a decanter for an hour, and we set our temperature on our wine fridge for like 55. So maybe that's why.
Yes, because it's a little colder.
Yeah,
so
a little colder.
So like I had mentioned earlier, if you get your wine out and it's a bolder, heavier Zinfandel, you still want to make sure that you sit it out in a decanter, like Brian said, or you can leave it out for a minimal of 20 minutes, but we personally put it out for an hour just because we're cooking. And so the longer the better when it is more of a concentrated oak. In this case, it's a single vineyard, El Dorado, small batch production. So it's small batch production means that there's less fruit grown. Mm-hmm. It's more intense, and there's not very much of it. So it's more of their higher quality productive grapes that they grow. Yeah. There's a significance to it. It's not their wine that they make more of. So it's like a more of a wine that's selected for specific type of style.
Yeah, Rombauer is known for their Chardonnays. So when they put in Zinfandel, single estate, and Rombauer again is known for, they have multiple vineyards that they buy extra grapes from. So they can do, I don't want to say high production, but it's like a mid-level production. It's nothing like the levels that come out of France, or Europe.
There's some very elite Napa Valley price wines too. So like you said, it's more of the middle ground.
Yeah, it's more
but still
in the middle.
High quality.
And I mean, but he's bought so many vineyards. I can't believe how well he did. So we're going to go into that right now for the Rombauer. So Kerner and Joan. I'm going to back up. In 1956, just as a history, Kerner, I hope I'm spelling that right, he joined the Naval Reserve, and he had a 30-year career in flying for both the Naval Reserve and he worked for another company too. I didn't write it down because it's not relevant to the wine, but he had a very successful career in flying. So he loved to fly. I saw a quote from him once that said that he loved flying and loved wines because they're both mystical, and so he really loved to do these oddball things, like people aren't made to fly, but yet these pilots who sit in airplanes, and these people who decide to take on ownership of wineries or start wineries. Man, you're just asking to,
you have no idea what's going to come.
You
your
either
way.
make it or So
no.
I thought his quote of calling it mystical is pretty neat, because he's right. It is very mystical, especially from his point of view. But so I'm going to go back to them. So in 1972, Kerner and Joan, Jones's wife, they moved to Napa, and they rented a property until 1974, in which they purchased a house amidst 40 acres in St. Helena. In 1976, they become partners in Con Creek Winery. They were friends with Bill Beaver and Bill Collins, who owned the winery. And then they, not only did they become partners, but they decided on their off time that they would work there, and they pretty much learned the industry. They learned the whole business. And they worked, they owned, they were partners until 1980, until they decided to go on their own and invest in their own winery. They harvested their own grapes. It was a Cabernet Sauvignon, and they harvested these from the Stag Leap district.
That was in 1976,
That
the
was
same year that Judgment of Paris.
That was in 1980.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, so they harvested their own grapes in 1980.
Oh, I was talking about you were just bringing out 1976 to be partners in concrete.
Yeah.
Winery? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I got.
So, and then they harvested their own grapes from the Stag Leap district, which Stag Leap was then a huge thing because, as Jasmine brought out in 1976, you had that Paris, the
Judgment of Paris.
a Judgment of Paris, where they put all these professionals, and they couldn't tell the difference in between a Napa Valley wine and their own wine from France. Stinkers. They go on their own and invest in their own winery, and they launch Rombauer. Sorry, Jasmine's been correcting me on that one. Rombauer Vineyards, and their first vintages are produced at Schaefer Vineyards and out of his garage. He actually got a license to produce wines out of his garage. He had to get a license for that. So he wanted to make sure that it all had his name on it. And at that time, Bob Levy is the winemaker. I didn't do any research on Bob Levy. I probably should have. So in 1981, a year later, Joan starts a career at Stag's Leap. She joined the sales team, eventually being promoted to national sales director. So both Joan and Kerner are go-getters. You could tell they have ambition. In 1982, they broke ground on their own winery on their St. Helena property that they bought in 1972 or 1974. And then Chardonnay is the first. They crushed their first Chardonnay a grape in August. So they're go-getters. And what they did when they were building their own winery is they built beyond their own needs, which I thought was really neat. So they serve as like a hub or a home, a base to a lot of elite up-and-coming wineries like Dominus, Nayer Cellars, is that right? Mm-hmm. Nayer. Spotswood, let's see, Maryvale, Etude, and you're going to have to correct me on this one, a Duckhorn? Yeah, Duckhorn. So they were home to those new up-and-coming wineries and more. I was looking up on a map, and a majority of these people already have their own wineries. Like I saw a Duckhorn in Dominus and Etude. They have their own wineries within the Napa Valley region. Their first wines released were in 1984, and they released in 1980 Cabernet Sauvignon, and then they also released in 1982 Chardonnay. So that was the first year they released their actual own wine, was in 1984. They waited for 4 years before they released the grapes that they crushed over at Stag's Leap, because they crushed those in 1980. And then in 1991, they make the Wine Spectator's Top 100s, their first of 5 times for their Chardonnay. So they're known for their Chardonnay. And I know we're talking about Zin, and we're going to get there. In 2002, he purchased the Buchley Station Vineyard in Caneros. That same year, his wife, Joan, passes away from pancreatic cancer. If you want to look up, they have invested in a lot of pancreatic research. If you want to see what they've done with that, you can go to Rombauer vineyards.com, I think is what it's called, and they'll talk about that, about what they've invested in. Comes to that, I think we've all lost someone to cancer, so research is really important. In 2004, they made the top 10 wine and spirits for their Chardonnay, and that was in the Restaurateur, what is that? The Restaurateur division. So they're saying it's a top 10 in the wine and spirits for restaurants. In 2008, Richie Allen becomes their head winemaker. In 2010, here we are, they purchased El Dorado Vineyard, the premier high elevation site, which is where what we drank, your Zinfandel. And I think that's 28 acres. 28 acres of Zin.
I think so.
Yeah? Okay. It's somewhere around there. It's between 20 and 28 acres. And then in 2018, Jasmine was telling me that she was telling everybody when this happened, but a Kerner, a Rombauer, he passes away. But I just want you to know that his children and his third generation grandchildren are still really involved in this winery. So it's still family owned. And I think, I'm almost positive, that his first grandchild, she just became a director of sales. So that's the third generation, a Rombauer. I think her name was Rombauer, a black, I think is, because she got married. But their history, and I was going to bring something out in the middle and have you answer it for me, but I can't remember what I was going to bring out. Yeah.
I was going to talk about their Aunt Irma.
Aunt Irma.
Their Aunt Irma Rombauer. So when Kerner and Joan first moved to Napa Valley in 1972, they didn't plan to own a winery or get into anything that had to do with the winery, but their Aunt Irma had been internationally known for a cookbook called The Joy of Cooking. And so the Rombauers already had a deep appreciation for food and wine pairing. So even though they didn't have a direct idea or kind of base or foundation of a winery yet, that wasn't their original plan, they had definitely had an appreciation for the food and wine industry, and it's thanks to their Aunt Irma again. So she was critically acclaimed for her Joy of Cooking, and so his love for, or passion or idea for that, came from that. But she had experiences from their roots, which came from the region of Rheingau, Germany, and so in that area where their ancestors were from, it is like a quintessential way of being to consider wine and food to a meal. It's a traditional way to appreciate food, and so it to complement the food and the wine together. So it stems from their roots, and Kerner had grown up with that, and so because of that, it was already basically in him to have an appreciation or a love for the whole food and wine, which is huge, because anywhere you turn or talk to with people in the food and wine industry, or it could be catering, it could be a chef, they're always asking what type of wine would pair, or even like a spirit, sometimes like an after dinner drink or cocktail. So it goes hand in hand. So that was something that I thought was pretty interesting. And then also they loved horses. So the Rombauer Vineyards they actually, when they moved in 1972, they had 2 children, 2 horses, and 5 dogs. So they had a lot. They moved into the area, and when they had purchased their land, they had this appreciation and passion for breeding horses. So Rombauer Vineyards owns horses. I'm not sure how many, but it is part of something that they love to do. So now at this point in time, 40 years later, because they not too long ago, I think it was, they were celebrating and came out with an anniversary vintage at 35 years. But 40 years later now in this state, the winery remains owned by second and third generation members of the family. So it's deep in their roots. I find it interesting again that they didn't start off with this idea of creating a whole winery, and it wasn't their original plan, but it definitely was in their roots and their family line of the whole idea of wine coming from Europe. So we see how well they've done, and this was a very delicious wine. I was very impressed by it, and I'm sure you guys will be too. It is a little bit more on the pricier side, but if you're going to have like a special occasion, or you really want to show off what Zinfandels from California can do, this is definitely going to be like a star wine that you want to show for just exactly how well a California Zin can produce its character here in the areas of Napa Valley. So I wanted to also mention that this particular area in which this varietal is grown, it has a moderate climate, so it actually is reverse to most temperatures that you find in Napa. Usually you have warmer days and cooler nights, but this is opposite. You have a cooler day and warmer night, which creates this unique taste of the El Dorado County Zin. So I highly recommend you check it out, and you will definitely enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. We were watching a video today about how the people in France, when they were starting the vineyards, that they'd take up all the land that nobody wanted, and they said the vines do better in areas where it's stressful. So you get a better grape, you get I don't want to say a juicier, but you get a more concentrated grape when you have slightly stressful situations. So that's one thing that is good about these areas, is that it is harder for it to pull nutrients out of the soil, and it's got to send its roots quite a ways down before it reaches any really good soil. So age is key, and yeah, so.
Yeah, so that with that description of what you were talking about, this particular area has less diurnal range, so therefore it creates that moderate climate, like you were saying, which in essence that's why it has that sedimentary or meta, a volcanic structure or base to the type of soil that it has.
Yeah.
So it creates a heavier, fuller bodied Zinfandel, which that's the key to the reason why this type of Zinfandel is created from that base of soil foundation. And then the climate adds to the character, so you're going to get that heavy fruit forward Zinfandel, which is, like I had mentioned earlier, more popular. It's the more sought after Zin. Most people tend to go for the heavier, denser Zinfandel because when people think of Zinfandel, they think of fruity. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So fruity doesn't necessarily mean bad. Mm-hmm. Zinfandel was created on a mistake. When the origins of Zinfandel were a sweet, very sweet wine, and that was from the white Zinfandel that everybody knows. But eventually, over time, it didn't take too long, the Zinfandel became very popular when they started making it into the red varietal, leaving the skins to ferment in the fermentation process, and they get the totally different character from the white to the Zinfandel. And so it's come a long way as far as how its beginnings were, and this is definitely a standout Zinfandel that you all want to try.
The El Dorado Zinfandel. El Dorado is high elevation as well. So the fact that it gets this evening sun to help dry out the soil, I think that helps with the flavors that we get in this Zin.
Yeah, elevation is a huge character to what you produce. And then there's also the fact that it's on the northern end. It has that higher elevation, like you were saying. Mm-hmm. So it sits between the Vaca and the Maya Kama Mountains, so that's where it actually sits in the northern part
That's good.
Yeah. So that's where the elevation comes in, and then it does sit at a 38.68 degree on the when you're on an equal when you're looking at it on the equator line.
Oh, okay.
That's where it sits.
Yeah.
So for all you nerds like me that pay attention to that stuff.
Other latitudes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Latitude and longitude. Yeah.
Latitude and longitude.
It does. When you study those and you study the when you're going from Europe to the Americas, or you're just trying to find a link between Old World and New World, and you're trying to transition yourself to taste, you can find wines that you like on because of comparing that. You're going to find taste that you can transition your palate from, and not just be subject to, oh, I only like wines from this area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, grow your palate and learn how to do that. It makes it really fun, and it puts wine in a whole different perspective for you.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys. So this is a 2018 Eldorado Zinfandel made by Rombauer. I suggest that you try it if you like that type of wine. And also, if you watch our YouTube videos at Wine Vine Road Tasted, you'll see what we put in our homemade pizzas, and hopefully you'll be able to combine the two and you'll get the taste that we got. If not, we do make other recommendations on there. So, alright, JasmineandBryan.com and Wine Vine Road Tasted on TikTok and at YouTube and on Instagram. Alright, guys. I guess this is a goodbye. Bye-bye.
Bye. See you next time.